Hey, this is Gary Mitchell, Gary on Manufacturing, and today I want to do a quick report on the Aras community event, ACE 2026, recently held in Miami, Florida, and I had an opportunity to go down there, meet a lot of people, talk to people. It's in the product lifecycle management PLM market. I'm not an expert in the PLM market per se. I know I've talked to all the major players and some not so major, but it's quite interesting, and it's a little bit of a step out for me to get another aspect of manufacturing, the stuff that's done before. So today's podcast is sponsored by Inductive Automation, makers of Ignition, the world's most versatile industrial automation platform for connecting data, systems, and people. With the new Ignition 8.3 release, you can easily manage time series and event data, quickly create custom graphics with onboard drawing tools, and centralize control using Ignition's new gateway interface with global search and deep link launching. Providing additional support for Git, containers, and private data protection to go along with unlimited licensing, Ignition 8.3 takes industrial operations to the next level. Download Ignition for free at inductiveautomation.com. I might introduce this topic, interesting to tie with Inductive Automation, whom I've known for 23 years now, and always have been impressed with the way they started out, and very customer focused and IT oriented, so that everything that they developed since 2003 has been IT friendly. And when I go to Aras, I see somebody else who coming into what might be a mature industry or market, and I would say disrupt it. I think they look at me kind of funny because I'm not a market analyst. I'm just a technology geek, and I'm interested in what's useful for practitioners. But anyway, there's a lot of similarities. New technology built from the ground up for the more modern times, and constantly trying to move at the forefront of the industry. So the theme was the theme for me was agents, kind of like Johnny Rivers and Secret Agent Man from the late 1960s. I still remember that song. But anyway. I got there in time for lunch on Tuesday, zipped into a whole bunch of tech sessions, and then a couple of keynotes and some more tech sessions. And what was really interesting was they were not talking about the potential of adding MCP, model context protocol, or other kinds of AI type stuff, but actually showed demos of stuff that's A, shipping now, and B, on the relatively near future timeline for using artificial intelligence, AI, large language models, which is kind of synonymous to a lot of people these days, and also agents. And people get a little bit scared of agents, thinking that it's something that's going to, take over the world or destroy humanity or all this kind of stuff. But an agent is a piece of code, a lot of probability built in rather than if then else, but that's okay. But they are so useful because they can be triggered, and they can go out into the LLM, do a search for you, come back, and then take an action. In Aras's case, it can do things like reach into the database and pull out something that you need for this particular design that you're working on, or the bill of materials you're working with, or other things that you're going to do. So that's one aspect. Something else that they talked about, they actually demonstrated, was a requirements document, and going into a requirements document, and which could be huge and really tedious for a human being to take and take the snippets out and put it in the right place in the PLM, so that when the designers and the people that work with the PLM need that particular piece of information, there it is in their format. And an agent can look at a requirements document that has been fed to the LLM and come back and populate the PLM. So really useful stuff. I mean, this was like not speculative. This is stuff that they are doing some now. There is more on the roadmap, and it is coming. And so it just blew my mind. I no longer knew what questions to ask because they showed the roadmap. Aras is very open about stuff like that, and so it was very interesting, and people were asking detailed questions, and they had detailed answers, which is refreshing, because so often things are so generic. And it was a really interesting and very enlightening conference. I got to talk to a number of customers at breakfast and lunch, sit at a table and ask questions and so on, and found people who were evaluating Aras versus, say, Siemens or somebody else. And the only negative I heard about Aras at all was the user interface. Kind of, I don't know if you call it old-fashioned or something, but and I don't even know what people would like it to change to, but they sort of were looking for an easier user interface. But I'll tell you, when you get all these sections of the window where you've got like the directory tree on the left, and you've got the data and drawings or whatever in the middle, and on the right you've got the chat going on where you're chatting with the LLM. How much can you put on a screen? So that's kind of interesting that way, and I saw a little bit of information from Sim Data that seemed to imply that the PLM market might be a little bit mature, although one of the executives told me that they're still taking data or taking business away because people may only implement one part of a PLM and not the rest, and then when they start looking to add on or something, maybe they're still using Excel spreadsheets for bill of materials or something silly like that. And evidently a lot of people still have not used all the full capabilities of a PLM, and so there's still a lot of opportunity for sales growth for companies like Aras. Interestingly enough, I'm recording this on Tuesday, April 21st, and I was last week at the Aras conference. Yesterday I attended online the annual Siemens press conference from Hanover, and they were showing some similar stuff with agents and LLM, and Siemens on some of their sides have jumped onto Microsoft Copilot really quickly, and they were boasting about that, but they did not show the depth of the system of using an LLM and agents. They have them, but Aras seemed to have more concept behind putting the system together, things like governance and context and so on. Seems to be a little bit more advanced to my uneducated eye, shall we say. But just to let you know, it is coming. I mean, large language models and agents, AI, as you might say, it's coming is a very useful tool. Is it going to replace everybody's job? No, but automation has always replaced some jobs with other jobs, and it's been that way. In fact, not just automation, but technology. Going back to the plow or whatever, has always been sort of it replaces this job, makes this job easier, makes this tedious job go away, or this dangerous job. And that sort of thing, and that's what technology is supposed to do, is make things better for us. So anyway, I was impressed with the tools, impressed with the community, and they always have a Q&A session at the end of the Aras event, and the CTO and the CEO, actually the CEO is pretty brand new, but they do it in the round. So they take all the chairs from the keynotes, put them in concentric circles, and they go in the middle, and they'll answer any question. Just they throw this padded microphone around, and it's like in a huge cube, and people can ask whatever, and those are always interesting. And then they just answer on the fly right there. And interesting session, and you could tell the involvement of the community, they like it, but what they might want to see more. Somebody wanted to see more containers, for example, because Aras PLM was built from the ground up to be cloud-based. Unlike everybody else, it's scrambled to either acquire somebody or somehow try to develop a cloud presence. And but there's if you want on-prem, then you want to containerize it so that you can have feel more control. So always a great event. Always appreciate going. A lot of stuff coming. I really appreciate the explanations of using agents, and the care that Aras is taking to make sure that there's quality and that there's governance and that spurious stuff doesn't get in and get marked up with the real data that the customers need. So anyway, a brief recap. I'll have several things. I've turned Claude loose. I'm trying to provoke Claude into arguing with me. Usually these chats, they usually come back and they're very kind and, oh yes, that was a very good idea. Oh yes, you write very well. Oh yes, it's like, no, I want it to say, well, actually, no, this is the way it should be. And I'm trying to get it to argue with me. And so I did a really deep dive into PLM using Claude, which is my chat of preference. In fact, I've asked it so many questions that made me bump up to a new level of paying for it. But I'll have more to do. That'll be written on my website, themanufacturingconnection.com. And thank you for listening. And please pass this along and refer other people back to my various sites. And as a reminder, this podcast is sponsored by Inductive Automation, makers of Ignition, the world's most versatile industrial automation platform for connecting data, systems, and people. With the new Ignition 8.3 release, you can easily manage time series and event data, quickly create custom graphics with onboard drawing tools, and centralize control using Ignition's new gateway interface with global search and deep link launching. Providing additional support for Git, containers, and private data protection to go along with its unlimited licensing, Ignition 8.3 takes industrial operations to the next level. Download Ignition for free at inductiveautomation.com. Thank you. Have a good day and practice kindness.